Hello, gorgeous person. Thank you for stopping by. I'm very excited to share a little bit more about why I do what I do. Some of you might have heard my story on the podcast with Penny a couple of weeks ago. And today I wanted to go a little deeper into the story and talking about my journey of saying no and how, through the journey of saying no, I learned to say yes. Before we just get started, I wanted to check with all of you who amongst you is a movie buff. And even though I can't see you, I want you to just shake your heads or probably just raise your hand that who amongst you is a movie buff. Okay, and would you remember which was the highest grossing movie of 2023? I'll give you a couple of cues. It was also the highest grossing movie ever for Warner Brothers. And another cue is that it definitely became my favorite movie because I purchased some of my favorite outfits and a matching handbag to watch the movie. So, those of you who have guessed it, yes, it is the movie Barbie. And there's an iconic scene in that movie. And let's just refresh our memories a little bit. I'm going to share my screen and let's just see, remember what that scene and what made it so iconic. Okay, let me just do this. Okay.
It is literally impossible to be a woman. You are so beautiful and so smart, and it kills me that you don't think you're good enough. Like, we have to always be extraordinary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane. But if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women because you're supposed to be a part of the sisterhood. But always stand out and always be grateful. But never forget that the system is rigged. So find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard. It's too contradictory. And nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. And if all of that is also true for a doll, just representing a woman, then I don't even know.
Ah, if that scene moved you, let's just take a deep breath and let it go. Whew. Do you know why that scene, that monologue was one of the most iconic of all times, in fact? Why it resonated with so many women across the strata of society, across different cultures and countries. because that feeling of not feeling good enough, no matter what you do, is prevalent across. If you're a woman, you have felt it at some time, if not most of the times in your life. And basically, it is living according to someone else's expectations and their narrative. And that's been my story. That was my story for a very long time. I didn't know whose life I was living. So let me just take you back to my story in case you haven't heard it before. This was a couple of years ago, and it was a warm summer day. I sat there next to the window, the summer breeze touching across my face. But I wasn't happy. I was angry. I had just gotten off a phone call from what could best be described as a difficult conversation. Now, this difficult conversation was with my parents, and it would happen quite often. And what the difficult confirmation was essentially being bombarded with questions like, what are you doing with your life? What's happening with your job? When are you going to get married? And if somebody is married, when are you going to have children? What are your retirement plans and what are the finances around surrounding that? What savings do you have? And these difficult conversations would leave me feeling ashamed of myself. I felt that everything was my fault. I felt like a total failure. And I just listened like a good Indian daughter because I would be frozen. I wouldn't know what to do, despite the fact that I was used to these difficult conversations. I didn't know how to stop them. I didn't know how to say no more. That day was different because I was tired, I was exhausted of being the person that I was expected to be. I had had enough. I came to a point that I could take it no more. I didn't want to take it anymore. You see, on that summer afternoon, as I disconnected the call, I felt utter shame and disgust for being myself. Growing up as an Indian girl in a defense background, you were expected to be well mannered, good in studies, behave at your best behavior most of the time, and finish college, get into your master's degree, get married. And believe me, master's degree is the minimum criteria of education in most households in India. Get married, hopefully to a good boy, have two kids, grow in your career, live a happy married life. Even in between, there might be tiffs, but that's fine. That was the model of what was expected of you and is still expected of you. But I hadn't followed the script. There I was on that summer day, nearly 40, not married, no children of my own, didn't have a family of my own, had no idea about my retirement plan. And in fact, what my parents didn't know that I had just left my job a couple of weeks ago. But obviously I couldn't tell them that because how can I make my parents feel ashamed of their Indian daughter or what their child has done, not have a job? No, I couldn't do that. And I don't even remember the last time that I had said yes to myself, my authentic self. All our lives as women, we are taught and shown that we need to be acceptable, congenial, be the good girl. And I wondered, was I caught up in the good girl syndrome, or Was I people pleasing and living the life of the narrative that was told to me and that I couldn't choose differently? Also, it was easier to just follow the narrative because I didn't have to explain why I had the ideas that I had. It was safer to just follow what everybody else told you because, hey, everybody did that. Before I go further, I'm just going to take a moment to share some research with you. Now, this research has been done in the US, but it is quite similar across different backgrounds and countries, especially for women. One research shows that women are more likely to say yes in a work environment than men. I don't know if any of you have faced that. And what I mean by that is especially saying yes to tasks that are not necessarily um, going to add value to their core job. For example, taking minutes during meetings, organizing birthdays, organizing farewell lunches, dinners, making sure people are coming to the town hall, doing team activities. Another study that Harvard did, in fact, showed that women are the prime sufferers in mixed sex groups, where both men and women expect that women will offer their time free of charge. Isn't that lopsided? What we are taught as girls is, amongst being pleasant and helpful, that growing up, when young women have a voice, have a different opinion, their voices are shut down. And you would see it in schools, colleges, even in a group of friends. One of the famous women in the US, Ruth B. Ginsburg, was famous of saying I dissent, which means I disagree. But she had to really fight the fight for several decades and be persistent in voicing her opinion. So, what did I do differently after that summer day? What I was thinking. How did I start my journey of saying no? Well, I had to learn to say no. I had to discern why saying no was important, but also essential for me to shed the layers, literally and figuratively, so that I could be my authentic self. I could be unapologetically me, whether it meant how I show up, whether it would be overcoming the people pleaser in me, and also letting go of the good girl syndrome a little bit. Now, I'm going to take a moment and just share with you what the good girl moment and the people pleaser syndrome, people pleasing is, because it's been, there's mixed understanding of that. While I just be more of myself. Hmm, that's better. That's more like me. So, people pleasing is essentially a coping mechanism that you adopt in order to survive. This might stem from your childhood, from a childhood trauma, or just a low self-worth that you have been experiencing for a very long time. And it's part of who you are. The good goal syndrome is a strong cultural, a lot of times patriarchal narrative that has been run across the society, which essentially tells you how girls should behave, how they should act, how they should talk, and what they can and cannot do. And so when I learned to say no and be discerning about it, I knew it was time for me, because on that summer evening, I realized what I had to choose. Either remain captive in the fear of what will happen if I stop doing what others expect of me, or I can be unapologetic myself. And the only person stopping me from being my unapologetic, authentic self was me. And the journey then began of me saying no to everything in my day-to-day life that didn't feel aligned to me, that didn't feel energetically right for me, that wasn't me. And believe me, I pissed off a lot of people, lost a couple of friendships. But what I gained was I saw myself bloom. I saw myself become myself. So I ask of you today, are you ready to be you? Are you ready to be unapologetically you? Do this with me. Let's do a quick exercise. So I'm going to ask you to write down or to think of three things that you have been avoiding or you feel they will not happen. So for example, I'm never gonna find that right person for myself, or I am not gonna get that promotion, or I'm not gonna get that job, right? Any three things on the top of your mind, just write that down. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to write them separately on a different page as if they have already happened in the present tense. So, for example, I have a loving relationship. I just got promoted and I love being myself and wearing the clothes that I want to wear, irrespective of how I look. Okay. So once you've done that, and you can pause the video here if you need to. Once you've done that, come with me. Let's just get up. Let's do this. There's the second part of the exercise. Okay. So what I want you to do is get up. We're going to raise our hands, fingers apart, and we are going to do something called the yes meditation. Okay. So I'm going to just show you what you need to do. So it's going to be, and I'm going to say my examples. So you say yours. Okay. And say yes till you really feel it in your bones. You really feel, yes, it's happened. Okay. I have a loving relationship. Yes, 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 yes. I just got promoted. Yes, 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 yes. I love wearing my clothes. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for doing that with me. And so, as I became what I did, you can see that I not just look and feel different, but I have become unapologetic about who I am. So if this exercise and what I just spoke to you is something that you resonated with you and you would like to start your own no journey, I'm developing some free resources and I would love to share them with you. You can DM me your email address and I will share them once they are ready. If some of you are sure that you want to start discovering how to be unapologetically you, then reach out to me. Let's get into a Zoom chat. And I'm going to show you what are the different ways that you can be unapologetically you. And we can also work together. Thank you for listening today and let me know what resonated in the presentation. Lots of love.